Morning everyone, welcome to the official YouTube channel of Office of Adda 21. How are you? So as you know, we have started a back to basics for the May 2020. This is our second class regarding this, and in today's session we are going to do the overview of economy part 2. It means this is the second class of our unit 1 module. Okay. So before starting the session, as I today as well, that what we are going to do in this particular, we are going to cover the basics of IEIFS from a very important concepts, all the important concepts which are required to understand to this particular syllabus. We are going to cover that. And this session will be regular on offices are 24/7 in the morning at 7:30. And in this session, what we are actually going to do, we are actually going to discuss each and every topic with the conceptual understanding, and also we are going to practice certain questions on those particular concepts. Okay, because in the May 2023 and October 2023 paper we have seen situation that something have been changed by the IIB on the regular basis. Something have been changed by the IIB, so they are changing a pattern, the way of asking the question. Apart from that, they can change the language of the paper, so accordingly preparing ourselves 2020. Okay, so let's start the session. Before moving forward, do let me know in the comment section, is audio and video both are okay? Are we good to go? Okay. Apart from that, if you are new to the channel of Office Asana 24/7, then subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that upcoming sessions notification. Now, as I have told you that this particular subject have four modules and D. It covers the whole syllabus of IEIFS. The starting two modules belongs to the economy part, in which you have to cover a certain data with the theory and conceptual understanding. The second part will be C and D, that is the financial, that will be covering the concepts of you topics. This is what we are discussing here. So let's start. Today we are going to cover the Unit 1 overview of Indian Economy Class 2. That is the first unit of your module. And in this particular unit, in the yesterday class, we have discussed the certain evolution of Indian economy, the certain points related to the evolution of Indian economy that we are going to continue today as well. So India was an agriculture economy with a very low per capita income. So if I talk about, if there is a low per capita income, that is going to impact the economy, because if the low per capita income, what happened, it means the people do not have money supply, they do not have money, they do not have money. It's very obvious they are not going to demand more services. When they are not demanding goods, the production of country will be reduced. If the production is reduced, the GDP, and if there is no production, that's very obvious the employment level will decrease and the per capita income. So this is how you can see that in the economy the crisis can be, there is a low per capita income. So that's what we do not want. We want India to grow. We want India's GDP rise. We want per capita income. And for that, we are doing economic planning since 19. Now, apart from that, as you can see, India was an agricultural economy. If we want to call any economy a particular sector-based economy have to fulfill. The first condition should be that the country income should come from that particular sector. That should, if you want to call India an agricultural economy, the 50% national income of the country come from the agriculture. Apart from that, the second condition is that the employment generation should also be from the same sector, and that should be the same minimum 50. If a particular sector helps you to generate the national income minimum 50% and also provide employment to your population minimum 50, then that particular economy will be known as agricultural economy. You can call it a service based economy or you can call it a industry based. But these two conditions have to be. So do remember that. Right now, we cannot call India an agriculture-based economy. We cannot call India a service-based economy or an industry-based economy. Because if I talk about the income, we are getting the income maximum from the tertiary sector, and sorry, around 52% income we are getting from the tertiary sector, and that is also known as what? Service sector. Now, if I talk about the employment generation we are getting from the agriculture sector, that is the primary sector means agriculture sector is providing around 49% of maximum employment generation in the country in context to the three sectors of the. So we cannot call India a agriculture based economy nor an service based. Okay, so do remember these two conditions have to be fulfilled if you are calling an economy a particular sector based. Now, what have been seen after independence, continuously agriculture's contribution started declining, and the industry and service sector contribution started in. You can see in 1950, agriculture was the dominant sector, was the controlling sector, and it used to contribute 53.1% of GDP. Industry sector used to contribute 16.6, service sector used to contribute 30. You can see agriculture was dominating economy at the time of 1950. And this is the year 1950 when we started economic planning as well. So economic planning in 19 started by the planning committee, which used to make the 5 year. It was started by the planning committee 5 year. Now next important thing is that till the year 1981, the agriculture sector was surpassed by the. So in 1888, 1981, the service sector contribution increased and that raised to the 38% of the GDP. Agriculture stays at the second level or that was the 36.1%, become the largest contributors of India's GDP. The service sector has surpassed the agriculture. And then that industry sector was there, that is 5.9%. Means since 1981, the national income have the maximum proportion of income from the tertiary sector, that the service sector. Then after that, the secondary sector, and the last one will be a primary sector. So this is the contribution to the Indian economy right now from the different sectors of the economy. And these sectors have been divided by C. Central Statistical Office was the government of India's unit that was created to calculate the national income, inflation, employment, unemployment, GDP, etc. All the statistical data of the country. So CSO have divided economy in three categories, the three sectors I can say, to calculate the national income, and those sectors were primary sector, secondary sector, and the tertiary. These three sectors have been divided by, it was divided by the CSO, Central Statistical Office. Okay? Now do remember earlier agriculture used to be the dominant country, now it is service sector. Okay, apart from that, we have also seen that only less than one-sixth of Indians were literate at that. So what happened, if you remember yesterday's session, we have discussed the British era in the last session. In British era, we have seen how Britishers used to exploit the raw material, they used to exploit the labor. They used to drain the wealth from India to abroad. They used to taking money from, it means in the Britain or UK we can. So this was happening in the country. Apart from that, it was one more thing that the Britishers helped us to develop the railway sector, but not for the development of the country, not for the industrialization of India. They have done this particular development just transfer the raw material from India to Britain. They have done everything, get benefits for themselves, and that's what literacy also happened in the same scenario. What they have done, they have simply got to introduce the Britain, or we can say British education system. So they have seen there are certain Indians who are focusing on the British culture. They wanted the British culture. And there were certain Indians who are very obsessed about English and all. So what they have done, they have targeted those Indians who are focusing on or who wants to get to know the British culture. So accordingly, education system they have introduced, and they focused only that population who wanted to convert them, not to convert themselves, but yes, they wanted to have the proper literacy in the context of the British education system. That's why we have seen only one-sixth of Indians were only literate at that time. Okay, now the next thing is Dadabhai Naroji in 1867, 67, 67, 68. If you remember, I have told you yesterday as well that the per capita income was calculated by Dadabhai Naroji for the first time. It was 20 rupees per person only. What was the national per capita income? 20 rupees per person. Dadabhai Naroji published the first estimate of national income in his book. That book was named as a Poverty and Un-British Rules. Yeah, in this book he also have defined the drain wealth theory. He also have defined the drain wealth theory. Now, what's a drain wealth theory? Drain wealth theory, let's understand this by an example. So if you remember that in our country, the scientists, doctors, yeah, फिर IITians, they mainly are working in the other country. They move to abroad. So they have a such kind of brainwash that there is no such kind of job for us in India. We have to shift abroad because we have a higher education and no such kind of posts are available in the country. So this is known as a brain drain. So their brain have been drained, their brain have been washed, that nothing is there for us in the India and they move to abroad. Similarly, drain wealth theory was representing that the wealth of the country was drained by the British India to from India to Britain. Okay, that was the drain well theory that have been represented by Dadabhai Naroji. And with the help of this theory, he also explained us the first national income, first time national income and the per capita. So the person who introduced the national income estimates, who introduced the per capita income estimates in the country for the first time was Dadabhai Naroji, and Dadabhai Naroji was the first Indian who became the uh, elected member of British Parliament. Okay, what he have became? He became the uh, first Indian member he was who became the elected member of British Parliament. And by knowing the national income and importance of national income and per capita income at the British Parliament, he introduced the same in the country. Now, a certain introduction have been or certain data have been given by Dadabhai Naroji in the year 1867-68 when he have calculated the national income and per capita income. The first national income of country was 340 crores and the first per capita income for the country was 20 rupees per person. So this was the data in the year 1867-68 calculated by Dadabhai Naroji for the national income and per capita income. And I have told you per capita income is nothing, just a average of national income. How to calculate? Just divide the national income with the total population. You will be getting the per capita income. Also do remember if there is a low per capita income in the country, the poverty, the unemployment and the illiteracy rate is going to rise in. Okay. Now a very important data. India's share in global income, or you can call India's share in global GDP, was 23% at the time of 1600, and the same only remained 3% in the time of 1947. It means at the time of independence. So you can see India's contribution to the global GDP or the global income used to be 23% that have been shrunk 3% in 1947. The same, if we talk about the global trade, India's contribution to the global trade used to be 33% in 1680, but at the time of independence, it shrank to only 3%. So India's contribution was declining continuously in the global GDP and global trade, because we know the Britishers have taken the wealth, the Britishers was taken the raw material as well. So they have developed the railways so that they will be finding a way to take the raw material from India to abroad to their country. So that's why India's share to the GDP and India's share to the trade have been reduced or have been declined. Okay, next. Now this is the duration when we have seen the evolution. The British era was there, in which the early British period 1600 to 1757 was seen. From 1757 to 1857, then we have found the British Crown 1858 and onward. And then we got independence in 1947, we got post-independence, got economic reform period, got global financial crisis period, and now we are in the post-COVID-19 pandemic period. So these are the duration in which the evolution of Indian economy have been seen since British era till the post-COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so these are the evolution of Indian economy. Now in this evolution, Mr. Madison have given us a certain important data. So we have discussed a certain important data given by him in the yesterday class also. Do remember all those data, they are very important. Now, according to Mr. Madison, we have seen that he used around 27,000 pounds in a year from India for himself as a jagir. It means simply, if we talk about clean, he used to take money from India to abroad. It means take for himself as a jagir the amount of 27,000 pounds in. Similarly, if we talk about the salaries, the British salaries were very high at that time, and the viceroys used to receive 25,000 pounds in, and the governors used 10,000 pounds in. That was the salaries of Britishers when they were ruling us. Apart from that, the difference between income of a Indian labor and the labor of British have seen that the starting salary of engineering services used to be the 420 pound a year, that was 3 times what the actual Indian labor force was getting. You can see the difference here. The difference was seen that the basic engineering services used to get 420 pounds in a year. That was 60 times more in comparison to India. And that have created a huge difference between income or increase India's income or GDP or contribution to the global level, and the income increase for the Britain or the GDP and their contribution at the global. And the data have been represented to us here in this particular chapter, like how much increase in India's income or India's GDP happens in the period when the Britishers were in the country, or we can call it a British era. And the same time we have seen the income and trade of the Britishers. So the money they used to take from India to abroad, that was represented as a home charges. They were taking monies from 1858 to 1947 as their salaries. They used to take this money as their salaries. That was the private remittances from India to UK that have been represented as a home charges. And this is also one of the important point of this chapter on the home charges. We have seen the questions 2020 as well as in October 2020. So this is home charges is also important for the paper. Now, If we talk about increase in the per capita income for India between the period of 1800 to 1947, it was seen only 12%. Only 12% per capita income of India was increased, while in comparison to Britain, if we talk about the Britain have increased 55% of their per capita. So you can easily see the gap here that India was only able to increase 12% of per capita income and the Britain has increased its per capita income by 55%. The same thing have been seen in the GDP as well. India's GDP was increased 0.44 times while the Britain's GDP was raised by 50 times. So this was the gap we have seen in the development of both the countries and the reason behind it, the exploitations of the Indian labor, the exploitation of the raw material and the drained wealth from the country. These are the three main reasons because of which this huge gap have been in the per capita income and the GDP increment in both. So this is also important data. Do remember this comparison between the two countries will be 1600 to 1947, the year we got the independence. Now the next important evolution have been seen in the Indian economy was the sixth five-year plan. So if you remember the Hindu rate of growth we have discussed, this Hindu rate of growth was introduced by Raj Krishna. He has given us this particular rate as a slow rate of growth indicator. Slow rate of growth indicator. So Hindu rate of growth was actually a slow rate of growth that have seen around average 3.5%. So when there is an average 3.5% growth, that was represented as the Hindu rate of growth by Mr. Raj Krishna. But in the year 1980 to 85, that was the sixth five-year plan of our country, and the five-year planning was done by the Planning Commission. At that time, we have seen that the skirts on the Indian economy have been broke because now we were able to grow more. We were having around 6% of growth. That's why the Hindu growth was continued after the sixth five-year plan of the Planning Commission. And do remember, Hindu rate of growth used to represent the slow rate of growth that was around average 3.5%, and this term was coined by Mr. Raj Krishna. Now, from 2008 to 2021, in 2007 and 8, we have seen the global financial crisis that was the Lehman collapse, you can call it. So that have been seen in the 2007 and 8 because of which the Indian government have been provided a fiscal stimulus to us. Simply, we can say to reduce the impact of the global financial crisis. So in this particular thing, what government have done actually, the government have released a certain fund. Government have released a certain fund to make sure that the global financial crisis impact will not be. And if it is there, and the same thing have been done by RBI. RBI have created the easy monetary policy. So I hope you all know about the monetary policy. What actually the monetary policy formulated by Reserve Bank of India to control the price stability in the country. So by making easy monetary policy, RBI has reduced the interest rate in the country. When the interest rate have been reduced, the loans will become very cheaper for the public and they will be taking more and more loans that will be money supply in the country. And this have been seen in the economy. Like government have released a certain fund, RBI also released certain so that there will be no what we can call it like there will be a proper money supply available with the public so that no crisis will be seen. Because if there is a less money supply, it's very obvious people will demand less goods and services, production of goods and services, and it will decrease the of the country as well. So the government did not want to have this. That's why the fund have been released. So with the help of these two steps taken by RBI and Government of India, we have reduced the impact of global financial crisis on. But It was done on the expense of fiscal deficit. Was done on the expense of what? On the expense of fiscal deficit. So government have released the fund that government have borrowed from somewhere. The borrowing on the government of India, the burden on the government of India have been increase of the borrowing fund. And that somehow created a lot of issue for the country because the fiscal deficit have been, the government have a burden of the money that the government have to return to the party from the government have taken. And after seeing that, FRBM Act were became active again. What is FRBM Act? Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act. This act was introduced in 2003 and became effective in 2004. And this FRBM Act was focusing on reducing fiscal deficit or making fiscal deficit zero in the FRBM Act became active. Uh, Whether all the targets till now, whatever taken by the FRBM, have not been achieved, but still it is working in the direction to reduce or to eliminate the fiscal deficit from the country. That rise because of these two reasons that have been done by government and RBI to control the impact of global. Since then till now, the fiscal deficit is out of the order for the government of India. So to make sure that the country will not face a lot more issues because of these, the government of India has introduced certain revolutionary policy impact of the fiscal deficit as well as we can say to control the government's fiscal deficit situation or to control or to provide the subsidy or the subsidy government for the fiscal. So after the release of the fund, we have seen the current account deficit was also in. What is the current account deficit? It is simply the difference between an import. When the imports are more than the exports, it represents the current account deficit. What happened? The government and RBI have provided fund to the country, and people started demanding goods and services. When they were demanding goods and services, we have to import those goods and services from the foreign countries because we did not have the proper supply in the country, and that increased the imports in the country and exports, and that led to increase in the current account deficit. What is current account deficit? Simply when the imports are more than the exports. Now, to control all these situations, the government of India have introduced the GST, goods and service tax. Government of India has introduced insolvency and bankruptcy code 2006. The corporate tax have been cut. The demonetization have been done. All these are known as the revolutionary policies by the government, fact of the fiscal deficit, or we can say to control the situation, financial situation of the country. So out of this, one revolutionary policy was FRBM Act was also, which was actually helping out or is still helping out government of India to reduce deficit. Okay, so these are the evolutions we have seen in the Indian economy. With the help of government, with the help of RBI, we have introduced certain revolutionary policies, certain acts or monetary policies that are helping us to stable the financial situation of the country. Evolution we have seen British era till the COVID-19 pandemic, post COVID-19 pandemic that have been evolved Indian economy in a many. So because Indian economy was facing deficit of the on the government was increased, that's why the LPG policy was introduced. Was a huge step by the Indian government that was introducing the LPG policy. And all these policies, if I talk about the LPG policy, if I talk about the global financial crisis, if I talk about the COVID-19 pandemic, these are the three major shocks that have been seen in the Indian economy. But because of these shocks, we have certainly evolved the economy by introducing policy. Okay, so do let me know all the content we have discussed today. All of you, get any doubt? Now, those who are asking that when the batches for the May 2024 is going to start. So the batches will be starting from 5th of November. From 5th of November, the first comprehensive batch for May 2020 starting, which will be started by the subject Principles and Practice of Banking and as well as the AFM. So Principles and Practice of Banking will be taken by, and the AFM will be taken by Niharika ma'am. So these are the two subjects starting from 5th of November. And also we have a JIB Mahapack 2.0 that will be covering the individual subject batch. As you can see, IE, IFS individual batch is available and comprehensive batch is also available. You can see here the JIB Mahapack 2.0 will be covering everything. Nothing you have to worry about. It will be covering your topic wise test. It will be covering your, apart from topic wise test, it's covering your full length mock test, two courses, ebooks, your conceptual classes, everything will be covered under the Mahapack. So how to enroll? To enroll, first of all, you have to download the 27 application. After downloading application, you have to go to JIB CIB section here in the by exams, and then click on the JIB. You will find all the batches. If you want to go with the individual subject batch, that is also available. If you want to go with the comprehensive batch, that is also available. You can see IE IFS is starting from your 20th of November, PBB starting from 8th of November, and AFM is starting from 5th of November. Okay, so these are the dates of the batches. And you can see here, if we talk about the comprehensive batch, that is also available starting from 5th. Niharika ma'am will start this batch. Then I will continue with the PPP and IEIFS. Then the Vishal sir will take. Now, how to enroll? To enroll, simply click on the particular batch. Let's say, for example, right now the most beneficial batch will be JIB Mahapack 2.0 because it has double validity with 81% discount. You can check the validity plus 6 or 12 month validity. How to enroll? Just click on the buy now option. Use the code here, JOY80. What code you have to use? You have to use the code JOY80 percent discount. If you want 1% additional discount, just purchase the same batch, the same product from the other 27 application. You'll get 1% additional. Now, at the time of enrollment, if you find any kind of problem, you can call on this number and ask you. Okay. So this is how you can enroll in the individual batch as well. Like I have showed you, Mahapack, the same way you have to use to enroll in the any batch of the JIB and CIB. Okay. Now let's add the scientific seat in the morning at 7:30 a.m. for IEIFS, in which we are preparing for the May to all the upcoming sessions. Will be able to. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining the session. Take care and have a good day.